Hello, Guitar Smarts fans. Before you check out this podcast, I want to make you aware of a cool new place where you can interact with other Guitar Smarts listeners. It's a Facebook group called the Guitar Geek Hangout. That's where we hang out and talk about all things guitar. So, if you like the Guitar Smarts podcast, come and chat with Kiran and myself over in the Guitar Geek Hangout on Facebook. Maybe check out some pre-podcast clips and even get involved in asking and answering lots of questions from the other page dwellers. Hope to see you there. That is a really good shout, man. Velvet Revolver. I love the name of the band as well.
Yeah, it's a cool name. It was a cool band.
Guns N' Roses, Velvet Revolver is kind of... Yeah. What's the next band name going to be that Slash is in? Is it going to be something like...
Corduroy Rifle.
Corduroy Rifle. Greetings! Welcome back to the Guitar Smarts podcast. If you're an everyday gigging guitarist, this is the podcast for you. This week, Kiran and myself are continuing on from the previous episode where we talked about our favourite classic rock guitar riffs from way back when. This time, we're talking about the riffs from more recent history that we think will become the classic guitar riffs of the future. As usual, there is a Spotify playlist of these tracks that you can find in the LinkTree in the description of this podcast so you can listen along to the show. Housekeeping, remember to like and subscribe to this podcast on your preferred podcast app. Why? Because you'll get alerts when a new podcast is released, and that means you won't miss another show. If you've already liked and subscribed and listened to us regularly, then use the link tree in the description of this show to leave us a rating or a review. This is the best way to support us and it helps us to grow. Use the links in the link tree to get to our social media pages too, links to our Buy Me a Coffee page if you do feel generous, and links to some of our Spotify playlists, including the new one from today. Come and see us on the social media pages, and especially come and join us on the Guitar Geek Hangout page on Facebook, where you can interact with Kiran and myself and many other of the podcast listeners. We get talking about all kinds of geeky things there, so don't miss it. Anyway, that's enough from me. Let's get to it. How you doing, mate? Are you well?
Mate, I'm good. I'm really good. Are we talking about it? Are we talking about the event? The event?
Yeah.
I don't know how you'd feel about it.
I feel good.
Happy birthday. Fine. Happy birthday, Matthew Oliver. Hey.
The big 4-0. You know what, actually?
Wow.
A week ago, I was freaking out about it. I don't know why. I just had like this existential kind of anxiety about turning 40. And like, I was thinking, crikey, I was 20 when I moved down south. That's now, I've now had half my adult life, my entire adult life pretty much, down south, not up north. And not that matters. But I just had this I had this like for about a week, just like, I don't want to turn 40. This is just, I'm not ready for it. It means something more than I'm able to cope with right now.
I'm choking on my tea. It's just that concept that you could stop it from happening.
Exactly.
I don't want this to happen. This can't happen.
That's it. Yeah, I just kind of freaked out about it. And then, like, literally probably the day before my birthday or a couple of days, I was just like, actually, I really can't wait for my birthday now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a really good day. I've got a couple of days off. I'm going to chill out,
nice.
Chill out with Lucy and just, enjoy, just relaxing, really enjoy my birthday. And it's been brilliant. And I feel totally great about it. I don't know whether this is denial or anything. Actually, I've not analysed it that much yet, but feeling really good, man. Feeling good.
It is but a number, my friend. And you've kept your youthful looks. You've kept all your hair. I mean, that's all that matters, really.
Well, that's it. That's true. I'm very lucky. Hey, look at one of the presents. My wife got me many wonderful things.
Did she?
But look at this. She got me a book called... So it's on track. It's a book called Toto. Every album, every song, and it's basically like a book that talks in great detail about every album and every song. And I can't wait to get stuck into this.
It's like if you needed any more encouragement to bring Toto into every podcast, now you have a reference library tool to find
everything.
everything. Mate, that is the best book
fantastic.
ever. I've just screenshotted that so our listeners can see it on social media. Just like, wow,
good show.
Who even knew such a book existed?
Well, this is why she surprises me all the time with things
she's
like this.
Good, your wife. She's good.
Yeah, she's very good at things like that. Oh, and I treated myself to something as well.
Did you?
Yeah. Check this out.
Hello. What's this? Hello. What? That's an old school.
This is from 1993. This is a Digitech RP1.
I remember seeing
This is
those.
basically like the Helix of the early 90s. And it's got a sticker on the back that says September 93. They came out in 93.
Wow.
So this is one of the original Digitech RP1 multi-FX units. It sounds so good. It sounds so 80s.
Does it? I was going to say, if you plugged it in.
Yeah, absolutely. I got it for like 40 quid off Reverb.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah, I've been keeping my eye out for one for years, and sometimes they come up, and often they come up for sale as not working or just like too expensive, 100, 200 quid. They were £500 brand new back in 93.
Okay,
which
that's
must
a lot
be
of money
equivalent
back
to
in
like
93.
Helix money now, maybe a grand and a half, something like that.
Exactly, easily.
And I got it for like 40 quid, and I've played it stereo out through my Helix so that I can pretend that it's going into the front end of two different amps, and then listen to it stereo. And
that's just blown my mind now. Hold on a minute. So you've run this into your Helix?
Into the Helix, yeah, because the Helix can take
amp
multiple inputs.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. So then in the Helix, I've got two different chains. One is both are like one I set up as like a Fender Reverb, like Fender Twin, and then another one is like a Vox AC30, just to kind of have as if I'd got two different amps stereo behind me. I'm trying to kind of simulate having some backline.
Yeah.
And I've turned up to a gig with the Digitech, and then just USB out of the Helix into the computer so I could record it or listen to it. And it just sounds so good. Some of the distortion effects are very 80s, very 90s and 80s, as in they don't particularly sound really great, but it is all analog. So it is like, it's proper analog effects and analog distortions and overdrives and analog EQ. And then when it gets to the reverb and the delay, that's when it's digital. But man, like the compression and the chorus and the reverb and delay is so, it's like Toto, the seventh one in a box. It's just so good. I'm over the moon with it, mate. It's really great. But that was a little treat to myself before my birthday.
Oh, mate.
And actually now I've opened some cards and things like that. I do have some cash to spend. I don't know what to spend it on. So I'll treat myself to something else at some point.
Oh, well, indeed. Indeed you should. And yes. Well, I won't say too much, but we'll be celebrating your 40th birthday throughout this year. I have some plans and I have some ideas. So, yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a momentous occasion to be marked appropriately, I feel, and it shouldn't simply be
Fantastic.
for one day. I think we should make this year about your birthday, so that when you turn 41, then you really will feel shit, because then you'll have gone, oh well, that's it now. everything happened last year, so we'll just do some cool stuff this year. Oh mate, I'm so glad you had a lovely birthday.
Anyway, how are you anyway, Kiran? What's new with you? Are you well?
Yeah, it's good. Well, it's not been my birthday for a while now, and I'm considerably older than you. So yeah, I don't have anything to look forward to when it comes to birthdays anymore, apart from, well, I was going to say cake, but yeah, no, I'm trying to be healthy now, so I'm not even eating cake. But what has been going on in my world apart from no birthdays? That's a really good question. I've been back out with work and attending, meetings with people face to face, going on business trips, staying in hotels again, all of that kind of stuff, which was par for the course prior to COVID, but I haven't really been doing for the last couple of years. So that's been good. Work has been full on and busy. Guitar wise, what have I been doing? Just stealing moments this week, actually. Do you know what? I'm feeling a little bit, not in a rut, how we described it with you the other day, but just feeling like there's so much else going on that I haven't had time to sit down and do some serious playing. But I tell you what, I stayed up late last night watching just stuff on YouTube and just getting inspired by it, and equally like just kind of scared and shocked shocked. There's some incredible guitarists out there that just make you just go, oh, come on, man. So yeah. I watched a bunch of Martin Miller stuff. I just love those sessions that he's doing.
So good.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I put it on the big screen with the big kind of surround sound system and just immerse myself in a few of those tracks. And you just go, I just want to be in that room. Just even playing the triangle with them would be fun.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I watched them do, because all cover stuff that they're doing, but just in incredible way. So yeah, if you guys haven't checked out Martin Miller and his kind of cohort of musicians doing those sessions, just YouTube it. There's some incredible stuff, and he gets in guest artists and all that kind of stuff. So watch some of that. Watch some Guthrie last night as well. He doesn't put that much on social media, but when he does, it just makes you go, oh, come on. He's just insane.
Yeah.
I just watched him kind of jamming a version of Sting's Englishman in New York with this like sax player. Just ridiculous. I mean, nobody should be that gifted on a guitar. It's just not fair. I mean, you can just see him thinking in real time as he's playing, which, of course,
it's just bizarre, isn't it? Don't you think? It's like, I don't think it's too bad. Sorry. Yeah, I just find it. Guthrie Govan is just, it's almost like he's the Jedi of guitarists in a way. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's not like, he doesn't come across as somebody who has practiced his way to that level of ability. He comes across as somebody who is just supremely gifted. Do you know what I mean? It's like you see some guitarists and you know they've worked hard, but he just seems to be, it's almost like his capabilities are just boundless, and it's of no effort to him at all to go deep in anything. Whether it's a particular style of playing, whether it's particular scale, whether it's rhythm, whether it's knowledge, theory, or anything like that. And sometimes as well, there's some good videos of him playing online with other guitarists, like John Petrucci and stuff like that. And to see people who are also incredible guitarists react to his playing in a way that you would react like you and I would react to somebody, is astounding. That I'm not sure there's anybody better than Guthrie Govan. I mean, the other people will move you with their music and stuff, and I'm not saying that he's like that, but yeah, from a capability point of view, and from being able to watch somebody who I'd love to see him gig with Martin Miller's session band. But yeah, he's just something else, isn't he? Just absolutely brilliant.
Oh, mate, we've still got some bad internet issues going on. I don't think it's my end.
I think it's my end. Because I have this with work. Should hopefully be better. Fingers crossed. I think this is because anyway.
Yeah, that looks better.
Anyway, let's see how we get on.
You're unfrozen. Sorry, mate. That one's going to require
no, it's okay. It's
a bit of chopping, a bit of tweaking.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy. Just chop it out and push it all together.
nudge it together.
That's it. Nudge it around.
Right, where should we drop in?
I could probably it's quite dangerous. I could probably actually start chopping words out of everything you say and start making sentences that you've never said before, and then send them to you just to freak you out. Like Matt, I'm going to give you all my guitars next week, free of charge.
We've got to keep this in. That's genius, mate. To be honest, that entirely sums up my studio recording career, which is like when I listen back to tracks that I've put down in the studio, and I listen and I go, I've never played that ever. That's about 7 different excerpts of my playing, like stitched together to make a solo that doesn't have any bum notes.
Hey, you know what? I remember listening to an interview with David Lee Roth. I think it was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and David Lee Roth was talking about Eddie Van Halen's method for writing guitar solos on the first few albums.
Joe Rogan was talking about Eddie Van Halen. Oh, no, sorry, I'm with you.
David Lee Roth was the guest, right? So,
I caught up.
So David Lee Roth said, what Eddie would often do, he'd just record a whole bunch of solos. Like, say they had they were recording 16 track or whatever, 24 track. If they had 10 tracks left available for he would record 10 solos on these different tracks. And then what him and Don Landy, the producer, would often do, they'd go through and they would move faders up and down really quickly, or mute and unmute tracks, so that the solo was then actually made of snippets from multiple solos. So like the first 5 seconds of the solo might be the second solo he did, and then they'd quickly move in to the fifth solo because that next section was good, and you'd end up with this patchwork solo of all the best parts. And then what he would do, he'd go away and learn that solo that they just patched together, and then he'd record it as one take, so it actually sounded a bit more kind of homogenous, you know, and a bit more like one real thing. But that was really clever, really clever way of doing it. Kind of improvise all these different things, find all the bits you like, use the desk to actually kind of put it together, and then take it away and learn it as a complete works. And that's just the genius of Van Halen, man.
That is very clever. I guess like most guitarists take a couple of takes, right, on a guitar solo, sure. And then they'll either just go, right, I'll just pick the best one, and that's that one. Or what they'll do is they'll go, okay, I like what I did there. I like what I did there. Right, let me try and incorporate all of those bits and figure out how to get from A to B to C to D to make it that homogenous thing. But that's the first time I've ever heard of someone like literally using the desk to do that and just going, right, lay it all down, and then just let's keep listening back and let's edit now, go away and learn that. Now we've stitched it together. Now go and learn that. Yeah, it's clever.
Just great.
Efficient.
Very efficient. Yeah. What I like about it is they didn't just stay with the thing they'd pieced together. They pieced it together to something he liked the sound of, and then he'd go and recreate it as one thing. Yeah. You know, that's the, you know, because when we recorded for Roadrun, I'm pretty certain, like, some of the solos we did in there, like some of mine, I think, are definitely
mine are
pieced together.
Mine definitely are. There's one lick in one song where I go, there's no way I could physically get from there to there.
Yeah.
There's no way I could have done that. And I just go, oh yeah, we chopped two halves of my solo together. It sounds great, but then you listen back to it and you go, what?
Amazing.
Yeah, I must have 17 fingers on one hand to have made that stretch and that adjustment. Well, brilliant. You know, singers do it with Pro Tools all the time. Why can't guitarists have a little bit of
that is true. That is true. Why is there no, it's not fair, is it? Anyway.
Well, anyway.
So no guitar news from you then, or
nothing? No guitar news. No. Not my guitar news, but someone we talk about a lot on the show, Damien Lodrick, had his birthday.
You got him that pedal, didn't you?
Yeah, which he's loving. He's actually put it on his board and taken off a number of drive and overdrive and distortion pedals instead, and gone, this is working really well. But that's and I'm yet to hear the pedal yet, but he's been using it for the last couple of weeks for gigs, but he's using it with his other birthday present that he got.
What's that?
Well, it is a brand new, very beautiful Clapton Blackie Strat. I know, with the tweed case and the everything, stunning. It's absolutely stunning. I know you're shaking your head and just. I was just like, I kind of want to tell you, but then I don't want to tell you because it's just like, you know, do you know what I mean? So somebody had but his was a big birthday. Okay, so
right, okay. Well, that's fair enough then. That's fair. Well, if it's a big birthday, then
yeah. So there you go. But that was from his good lady wife. So there you go. When we get to that wise old age, then maybe our good lady wives will treat us to Clapton Strat as well.
Well, I've got to say, like going all the way back. Do you remember one of the very first podcasts we did was the Desert Island thing? And
I remember
my Desert Island guitar.
I remember
was a Clapton Strat.
Yeah, I know.
But not any Clapton Strat. I still want eventually, I have, this is a, bucket list guitar for me. I want an original, one of the first year, an 88 or an 87 pewter Strat, that gunmetal graded with the lace sensor pickups.
With
I don't want
sensors.
the Fender noiseless that came in about 2000. It's got to be the lace sensor, an original pewter Clapton Strat.
Which you have played, right? You played once So you borrowed it off a friend for a dep gig or something, and so you know firsthand that this is the dream. This is the dream
it was
machine.
fantastic. It's fantastic. You know, it was just such a great guitar to play.
Yeah,
and fantastic instrument. So I'm really chuffed for Damo if he's got one of those. That's a fantastic guitar.
Yeah,
but that might be the most versatile Strat you can get, I think.
Well, I had a chance. So on his birthday, he set up in his garden an incredible stage and stuff for a band to play on. And as you would expect for a muso's birthday party, there was no shortage of musicians at the birthday celebration. So it was just like the super jam night of all jam nights. So and so I got to hear the Strat with that boost that rolls in and just how that works. And man, it's killer. It's versatile because of that. Just what additional dynamics you can push just through the guitar. It's great. But I'm excited because he messaged me last night to say it's come with 10 to 46s on it, which he's loving, and it sounds great. Yeah. But I know he normally plays 9s on a Strat, so he's like, maybe I'll put 9s on it. The 10s sound amazing, but maybe I'll try 9s on it. So, which means then I get to mess with it. And that's the bit I'm most excited about. Because I've never said a hybrid, 10 on the bottoms and 9 on the tops. Yeah, hybrids might be nice. But I'd quite fancy setting up one of those. One, seeing how it comes fresh out of the custom shop to see is it.
That's a point,
how have they set it up and how could I tweak and improve upon it? So
well, the thing is with Clapton Strats as well is your tremolo's all blocked off, isn't it? So you're not worrying about balancing the trem or anything like that,
which is great, which is simple, nice and easy. It comes pre-blocked. It comes with a trem arm and all the springs and all of that if you want to de-engineer it. But yes, it is literally blocked off with a block of wood in the back.
And Clapton doesn't really play anything different, does he? It's not like it's a signature, but he plays something. I mean, Clapton I think plays custom shop Todd Krause made Clapton Strats, but there's still the same spec as your off the shelf Clapton Strat. There's nothing different. Still the same colours and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's all that's been going on with me guitar wise. Still waiting for a pedal to turn up for me, the one that I ordered that I talked to you about last time, but that's due sometime this month, so that's all good.
That'll be cool.
I've been doing a little bit of research into these jet guitars that we spoke about last time, trying to figure out whether I want to just get one of those as a fun project for modding and stuff like that. But nothing major. And then getting ready for some new gigs that we've got coming up in the autumn and winter season. So in the lead up to Christmas and things, and also trying to get some new songs into the set list. Just because that's a fun thing to do to keep things fresh and alive. And rehearsing a few of those, trying to get a band rehearsal in the diary. And then next gig isn't for another couple of weeks. So that's
awesome.
That's it, mate. Oh, and listening to loads of stuff for the topic of today's podcast to try and narrow down this list.
So let's start on that. That's a great segue, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you.
No worries. Sorry to interrupt this conversation. However, if you've made it this far, you should definitely subscribe to the show on your favourite podcast app. Go and do that now and then come right back. I'll wait here. Welcome back. So this week we're kind of following on from our last conversation where we were speaking about the top 10, each of our top 10 riffs from, way back when, just classic guitar riffs. When we think about classic guitar riffs, we're thinking about classic rock, and it got us thinking about what are the riffs from maybe the last 20 years, from post 2000, or from around that time onwards, that are going to be the modern classic riffs that in 20 years time, somebody else is going to be having another podcast about classic guitar riffs, and what's going to be on that list
exactly,
in the future, so not just stuff that's good now, but stuff that I think, that we think is going to be referred back and revered from people in the future.
Exactly, that will stand the test of time. How did you find it? How did you find this exercise versus
more difficult for sure, because of my musical tastes, and I tend to listen to more stuff from before this kind of time, so from we said kind kind of year 2000 onwards, and most of my listening is pre-2000. Even now, not all of it. Some of my stuff I love as well is afterwards, but it's not as kind of fruitful a endeavor for me to kind of find this stuff. But I've got a good list of stuff. I've got a good list of about 15 tracks, maybe. And
you've done well. I
think so. And again, some of them I think are fairly obvious choices.
Okay.
And some of them I think, these are things that I really, really love as well, which may be less obvious. So similar to last time, it's kind of a bit of a personal story there, as well as stuff that I think is important to, record. But what about you? How you find this difficult too?
I definitely did find it more difficult. And like you, it showed me that most of the things that I listen to are pre-millennium. But there was, and I also found it more difficult to come up with ones that were like had my own story behind them, right? Because obviously, they're newer, so they're not necessarily all bookmarks in my own life as to why I think they're a great riff. So it kind of forced me then to go, okay, is this in of itself a great riff that will stand the test of time? But I got there. I got my 10, and I'm pleased with them. I think there's some great riffs in there, and it's quite exciting that there's still great riffs being written, in this day and age. So I've got my list, and it means we get another Spotify playlist for our listeners as well, and for ourselves, that we can just listen to.
That's a really good point. So let's do that. So we'll make a Spotify playlist. So if you're listening to this now, just click on the show notes in the podcast app that you're listening to, like if it's Spotify or whatever. There'll be a link in there for our LinkTree, and that'll take you to all the links that are relevant for the show. And one of them will be the Spotify playlist for this show, Modern Classic Riffs. So let's make a start then.
Let's go, mate. Shall
I go?
You go.
All right, well, my first one is a song I really, really, really hate.
I've got a few of those on my list as well. But if the riff is good, the riff is good, right?
This is the thing. Exactly. So number one for me is recognizing what I think is one of the best riffs of post-millennium music. Yeah. But I hate it. And you all know I hate it. It's Mr. Brightside by The Killers. It's on my list too, mate. It's a fantastic riff. It's utterly recognisable. It's on your list too, like you said. So it must be. There you go. There's the proof in the pudding. But I can't stand it because I've played it too many times and gigged it too many times in weddings. But hats off to the guitarist and to the band. That is a fantastic riff. You could play one bar of that and everyone knows what song it is. I think that's the proof of it.
That is the proof of it, right? So I dithered between Mr. Bright, because I had to keep it down to a list of 10, right? So but there are songs that we gig nowadays, right, you and I, where we may not love the song in of itself. We may not like playing it, but it's a test. This was the test for me as well as to whether this is a good riff. Is when you play the first few bars of it, people instantly know and they go nuts, right? Yeah. And Mr. Brightside is definitely one of those. And I don't even play it properly because I find the finger stretches on it just ridiculous, like on the upper register of the guitar. So I kind of cheat my way through it, and people still recognise it.
Yeah.
All right. And love it.
People do. People really. I mean, and I'm the same. I sometimes make a complete hash of it, and people are still going, I think that's partially because it's always at the end of the night, and I think there's a large amount of inebriation involved. But still, everyone always loves it.
Well, isn't that the test as well? Then, if it sits, and how many times have we said this with bands we've played in, where we're looking at the set list, what's our encore, or what do we finish with, and people go, oh, it's got to be Mr. Brightside, hasn't it? How many times has that been said? And again, it's relative position in the set list because everyone will have had a few drinks and be up for it by then. Immediately kind of tells you, well, what is it about that song? Is it, well, there's a number of things about the song, but the riff certainly contributes to its iconic status there. So Dave Kooning, the main guitarist there in The Killers, and he kind of favours those kind of Gibson Explorer type guitars, and thus that riff was born, and it's a great riff.
It is.
There's no denying it.
No, it's a good song. It's a good song. I would enjoy it. Like I said, I would enjoy it more if it's not that. My experience of it is that I've not enjoyed to play it rather than anything. It's not that I don't like listening to it. It reminds me of having to play it.
Well, do you know what? Before I gigged the song, I didn't really like it because I had massive associations with heavily drunk people at the end of the night, just going nuts and making a fool of themselves, which says more probably about British pub culture than it does the song, really. But when I then started gigging it and playing it, I kind of had a newfound respect for it and went, actually, it's quite well constructed. It's quite a good little riff. There's some nice little melodies and motifs throughout the song that are going on guitar. It's pretty good, actually. So there we go. Okay, that one made it onto both our lists. I'm glad we got that one out of the way with.
Fantastic.
It will stand the test of time, you know that. It will. Really will.
I know.
It already has. It already has.
It really has, hasn't it? Right, Mr. Kiran, what's yours? What's your first one on your list?
The first one on my list is, I think, a modern classic. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm desperately in love with this song, but the riff again is iconic, and there's something about the guitarist and the way he approaches the guitar and the tone, the kind of visceral tone, that I find really appealing and kind of enigmatic about this guitar player and this riff as an example of his guitar playing. And that's Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes. It's got all of the components that make for a great riff. It's got a gnarly tone. It's got, the legend of the guitar that it was played on, which by all accounts was this old battered up, not pawn shop, but kind of hand-me-down semi-acoustic K guitar that was basically falling apart and feeding back like a monstrosity and was set up for slide playing or something. But it's all that Jack White could get his hands on and afford at the time, and he made it work for him. And he continued to gig that guitar for many years and write songs on it and play it in the studio. And and it's an anthemic riff.
Unbelievable. I must say, it's on my list as well.
Is it? We're going to have a lot of duplicates there, aren't we? Yeah.
which is why I kind of, as long as we get 20 songs, I've kind of thought, I'll make a list of extra so I can kind of throw something else in, if you say it. But I'm going to be honest and upfront. Yes, I chose that one as well.
We're 2 for 2 now. Iconic. This rarely happens, right? We haven't had it happen where we've crossed over with many duplicates before, but maybe this is the one where we basically come up with the same list independently. It's going to be a crap conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's not.
But that is a classic. That is an absolute classic.
Isn't it?
It's just a fantastically... It's like I don't know, there's something motivational about it. Like some riffs can kind of like build up your adrenaline.
Oh, yes.
And it's almost like, you imagine if you need, songs to kind of work out to. You're going to
like when we were talking about Eye of the Tiger last week.
Yes,
right?
Exactly like that. Like Eye of the Tiger. Like Seven Nation Army, like that. That will get you going, for sure. That's a great choice.
Well, one of the tests that I applied to this exercise as well, as I was kind of whittling down the list. So like this morning when I was doing the washing up after the kids' breakfast, I was going through the list in my head trying to go, right, okay, are these great riffs? And it's could I repeat the riff in my head without any cues or going to have to listen to it or whatever? Could I hum it like in key and just, and this one you can instantly. All of these pretty much you can, where you go, well, that's clearly a great riff then, because it's an earworm. It's got into my head, and without even having listened to the track in preparation for this exercise, I can still reproduce the lick and hum it. And so, that's got to be the sign of some good writing, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so we've done Bright Side, Seven Nation Army. I'm going to move on to my number 2.
All right.
This is for me. This is important. I mean, this is kind of a very popular song. I think it's a great and simple riff.
Yeah.
But I love this because this is a big band from my youth, from like my late teens, early 20s. They were, they're still the biggest band in the world now. It's Foo Fighters.
Oh, great band.
And a lot of my favourite riffs are pre-millennia. Things like Monkey Wrench, My Hero, anything really. That's from Colour and the Shape and stuff. Yeah. But the one that I love for the most post-millennia is Times Like These from the One by One album, which is just such a great riff. Not just the rhythm guitar part, which is a riff by itself, but the lead part that's played over the top of it is a fantastic riff as well.
It really is.
And again, it's such a great song just in general. But I think it's the best song on that One by One album. Although again, the song One by One is very motivational. That's another one that'll get you moving on the treadmill. But yeah, Times Like These by the Foo Fighters is my second choice.
I love that track, and I went and looked at a lot of the Foo stuff as well, because all of their songs, like just because the way Grohl approaches guitar from like a drumming rhythmic perspective, it automatically lends itself to these really great riffs that come out of it, because they're kind of like rhythmically driving bits of guitar kind of composition. I didn't get a Foo Fighters one that made it onto the list, only because I thought a lot of them were pre-millennium, but of course that isn't. So yeah, great choice. Great choice.
I think the best riffs of pre-millennium.
Yeah.
For sure. You know, the first 3 albums they did, which was Foo Fighters, A Colour and the Shape, and Nothing Left to Lose, I think. I think that's the first 3 albums. They were all packed with fantastic riffs, but it's I've got to say, I've got 1 or 2 as kind of later on as honourable mentions that are pre-millennia. Which I think deserve a mention, even though they're just beforehand.
They're close enough. Yeah.
They're close enough, but I'm not going to put them on the official list, but I am going to mention them later.
Cool. Nice.
Anyway, moving on. What's your next one?
So next one on my list. These are in no particular order. These are just great riffs. So the next one is one that when I first knew that I was going to be playing this song in a band, I was just like, oh yeah, I know that song. I kind of remember it's got quite a cool riff. And then I went and listened to it and then tried to immediately play it on the guitar. I went, oh, that's going to take a bit of like thinking about. This is actually quite... And then I was just like, oh, no. This is actually going to take some real thinking about to play it up to speed, because whilst in of itself it's not particularly complex, it is like a repeating motif that you've got to get right and really nicely articulate, because if you mess it up, it messes up the whole song. It's akin to the intro to Sweet Child of Mine, where it's this kind of constantly rotating pattern that kind of shifts within the progression that if you make any one note just like bum, it's going to throw off the whole piece, if that makes sense. But this is a pre-millennium one, and it's Plug-in Baby by Muse.
Oh, yes.
Which
is that pre-millennium?
No, it's post. Sorry, it's post.
Sorry.
Yeah, this is post-millennium. Yeah, this is my post-millennium example of a riff like Sweet Child of Mine, which has got that kind of repeating motif that is really iconic and makes the entire song. And unlike the Sweet Child of Mine intro bit, which is just literally the intro, this in Plug-in Baby, this repeats at the end of every chorus, and then repeats again like twice at the end of the song to kind of finish off the song. And it's one that when I used to gig it and see it coming up next, I don't know if you do this when you're like playing, I'm sure you do, right? You're kind of getting 3/4 of the way through a song, so you give a quick look down at the set list to see what's coming next, so you can get your head in gear for what pedals you need next and what guitar tone you need next, and remembering what key the next song is in, and just get yourself mentally ready. Every time I saw this one coming up next, I was like, equal amounts of cool, love this song, and got to nail this riff and get it absolutely right, because if it's not right, it just throws the whole vibe of the song.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
It's good though. Once you've got it under your fingers, it's like playing the intro of Sweet Child of Mine. It's just there, it's done, it's easy, and you think, what was I ever concerned about? It's simple. But there's that brief bit of learning it where you just go, oh, I underestimated for a moment, actually this is going to take a bit of practice. But then you get it, and then you get great satisfaction, and it's a lovely little warm-up for the fingers.
Oh, for sure, yeah. That's a great choice, man.
It's a great riff.
Baby.
Great riff.
Muse, great band as well.
Well, Matthew Bellamy. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Great guitarist, very good songwriter. They're all fantastic. Yeah. There's a hilarious video online of Muse. This goes to show that of the excellent sense of humour, where they were in Scandinavia somewhere, I believe, doing a TV show around the height of that album. When that Plug-in Baby was big, and they very quickly realised before the live TV show, and because they were miming to their own music, they very quickly realised that nobody knew who they were on the TV show. So to please themselves, instead of getting angry about it, they thought it was hilarious. So to please themselves, they each pretended to be other people in the band.
Fantastic.
So like the drummer pretended to be Matt Bellamy and said he was Matt Bellamy for the interview and stuff like that. And then when they're doing the live performance, you'll notice the bassist is playing guitar, Matt Bellamy's on drums.
It's not a live performance, they're just miming.
Yeah, exactly. They're just taking it. They're going, well, nobody cares who we are, so let's just have fun. Yeah. And it's hilarious watching them pretend to perform, and everyone's like, "Oh, fantastic, Muse, everyone!" And they just took the mick out of the TV show for not knowing. Just brilliant. It was very funny. I thought that's great. Not taking themselves too seriously and kind of realizing a moment to laugh. And enjoy themselves in a funny way.
Nice. I love that.
Right, my next one is again. This is one so a lot of people might forget this one, but it's a great riff. But again, also a really fondly remembered song for me from my kind of again late teens, early 20s. And it's a song called "Just a Day" by Feeder. Do you remember Feeder?
Oh, I remember Feeder. I don't think I know "Just a Day" though.
So "Just a Day" was a popular music video because the video was made up of lots of people at home in their bedrooms pretending to play the song. Play along with a song. They're obviously playing along, like pretending to sing it to cameras and stuff, or whatever. Yeah. So the whole video is these people kind of pretending to play along with the song. The song's a fantastic track. If you've not heard it before, I recommend go and listen to it. But it's just punctuated by this really simple kind of riff at the beginning. Very simple, only 2 or 3 notes. But for me, that is like that signifies a time in my life, just post millennia, out of school now, kind of moving into adulthood, and driving around town in my first car, listening to that quite loudly. Just a Day by Feeder, really great track.
Oh, I love that. As often happens on these things, what's iconic to one person is new to the other person. So that's great. I've got something to go away and listen to now. I'm going to picture you driving around in your car, like going nuts to it.
In my Fiat Uno.
Wayne's World style. Yeah.
Cool. Right, next. What's your next one, dude?
Right, so the next one for me is it wouldn't be a list from me, would it, without a Slash song in there?
No, it wouldn't.
So, but obviously Guns N' Roses haven't written much stuff post millennium now. So this is when Slash was playing with Velvet Revolver, which is a great band that I had the pleasure of seeing live a bunch of times in the UK, and really loved what they were doing. Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots was on lead vocals and brought his own kind of like incredible energy and kind of character to the band, and Duff was on bass, and they wrote some wicked great tracks, obviously driven by Slash's rock kind of sensibilities. So the riff for me is Slither, which is probably one of the most famous tracks that came out of Velvet Revolver. Probably not that mainstream in terms of well known, because I don't think Velvet Revolver massively crossed over into kind of pop culture. But it did have an MTV music video just at that time, and that video was great, well produced, got a lot of airtime. So maybe people do know this track, but for me, it's one of those great driving rock riffs that allowed like Slash to continue his career into a new dimension after Guns N' Roses. Of course, he'd done the kind of side project bands like Snake Pit and stuff, which in themselves have got some incredible riffs on some of those albums. But that's all pre-millennium still. That was all kind of like late 90s. That was all late 90s stuff. So this is just tipping over now into the new millennium. His new style, but still steeped in all of his kind of driving rock grooves. And it's in drop D, classic kind of Marshall Les Paul type tone, but with some kind of, some funky delay and stuff going on in there. there. But when we spoke about the riffs last time on the previous episode, and we talked about clever ways in which the riff evolves within a song, but still kind of drives the overall song. This is a quintessential example, right, of one riff used in a certain kind of like pitch for the intro that then is accented in a different way using octaves in the verse, and then is like built on throughout the course of the song. So, and it's pretty much the same riff through the verse, through the chorus, through the underneath the guitar solo, and for the outro, but it's all variations on the theme of that riff and played in different positions on the neck. So from a riff perspective, not only is it a great riff and in drop D, so it's got this lovely heavy kind of drive behind it, but it's also a great example of how you can evolve the same riff and make it lend itself throughout the entire song in different ways, yet staying entirely true to the same theme. It's quite an art to
that is so
do
true.
that.
Yeah, and it goes to show, I think, experience as well, right? I mean, Slash is a master riff writer for sure. To be able to kind of do that with a riff, to come up with something iconic and then to develop it throughout a song, that's really something special. They were a great band, Velvet Revolver, and there was another song there's, I think, called Fall to Pieces,
which was that track.
That's another great track, another great riff as well.
It is,
another great anthemic track. But I haven't got any of their stuff in my list, but that is a really good shout. Velvet Revolver. I love the name of the band as well.
Yeah, it's a cool name. It was a cool band.
Guns N' Roses, Velvet Revolver is kind of, what's the next band name going to be that Slash is in? Is it going to be something like
Corduroy Rifle?
Corduroy Rifle.
No.
That's amazing. Corduroy, right? I really hope it is.
Yeah, it should
I'd be disappointed if it's anything else.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So Slither, Velvet Revolver, go and have a listen to that. A fantastic track. So my next one is, one of my favourite riffs of all time, one of my favourite guitarists of all time, and probably the first album, originally from the first album he did this on, which was a live album with Steve Jordan and Pino Palladino. It was a John Mayer trio album, and it's Good Love Is On The Way.
Yes, what a tune.
What a riff.
What a tune, what a riff.
A little bit of a finger twister.
Yeah.
Not much of a finger twister, really, once you play it, but it's just such a fantastic riff. In A as well, in the best of all keys.
Exactly. It's the best
Just
of all
so
keys.
Good. Yeah. Such a great riff.
The key that has caused more need for patched refrets on guitars rather than full refrets in the history of guitar.
Well, I think it comes from there's old men in blues bands that played too loud over time. Yeah. Somebody's shouting, "What key's this in?" And somebody's going, "Hey," and then you go, "Okay, sorry, it's a terrible joke."
It's a terrible joke. Always happy with a song in the key of A, though.
Sorry about that. Man. Anyway, let's move on.
I mean, should we move on? We should move on. So I'll go next. But honestly, he's a bit of a swine, isn't he? And I limited him to one placement in my list. But there was.
Are you talking about Mr. Mayer?
I'm talking about Mr. Mayer because I kind of went, well, what are the great riffs of Post Millennium that kind of stick in my head that I keep listening to, that I come back to, and that I play on the guitar to test out the guitar, test out the tone. That's another thing to tell you, is it a great riff? Where it's something where you go, well, I use this as a staple for testing out my guitar tone and my rig setup and stuff, because I know how I want it to sound, and it's still fun to keep playing time and time again. And Mayer's riffs, they keep coming back. So Good Love is definitely one of them. I had Neon on my list. Yeah. Just because, man, that is just a killer riff that no one can play apart from him. It's got stupid stretches in it. It's got like rhythmic, percussive right-hand technique using a finger and a thumb rather than like the full extent of all your fingers on your right hand.
I think
it's just...
That's it. I think if the technique needed to play it wasn't so obnoxious, it would be one of the best riffs of all time, wouldn't it?
That's why it got ejected off my list. I mean, fine, I can muddle my way through Mr. Brightside because the stretch is a little bit too much for me. and I just get lazy with it, and it's fine, and I can approximate it. But every time I've sat down to learn Neon and got it to a certain level where it's within reach, it's kind of almost there, even though I've had to change the chord inversions and stuff to fit with my less lengthy, more chubbier digits. It then escapes me, and I go, I just can't do it. It's just obnoxiously difficult. It's just, and that's. And then
you watch John Mayer play it and explain playing it, and he's like, I'm just doing this.
Yeah, really?
I'm like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You can't just say that. That is not fair. No. You can't just say, I'm just doing this.
Yeah. I'm putting my thumb here on this fret, and then I'm doing like a 5-fret stretch with my like index finger over to here. But don't worry about that. That's the bit. That bit's not important. It's really all about what your right hand's doing, and just keeping that. If you can't get the right hand technique down, don't worry about what the left hand's doing.
Sure.
It's just like, I'm worrying about both, John. They're both obnoxious.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Anyway, but what did you choose?
Yeah, I didn't choose that because he pissed me off by that point. But what I did choose was Slow Dancing.
Oh.
I mean, it's a lovely song. It's a great track. But from a guitarist perspective, right, it's probably the sign of a great riff if it becomes a fundamental way in which to like try out a particular pickup position on the guitar, right?
Yeah.
Like the amount of people after that song, that myself included, that go, I'm going to test out if I like this strat that I'm playing in the guitar shop, or if this strat has got the right tone for me, by going to position number 4 and seeing if it gives me that slow dancing in a burning room tone. I mean, like, he basically owns that now, doesn't he?
He does, doesn't he? Basically owns it. It's Slow Dancing in the Burning Room is an amazing song, amazing intro riff, and riff generally, obviously not just an intro riff, but it's still an amazing riff. But it's almost as forbidden as Stairway to Heaven and Smoke on the Water, isn't it, to play? Yeah. I mean, I completely get it. It's that if I want to test out like a pristine, clean sound through a Strat, and a loud, clean sound as well, that's important. Yeah. That is the thing you want to play. You want to test your dynamics, using your finger, not your pick.
That's it.
But if you're doing that in a guitar store, you know you're getting daggers from people.
For sure.
Whilst you're doing, people are going,
stop playing it.
Such a cliche.
It really is. Well, and arguably why then it must be a great riff, because if it's become such a cliche because people use it to test their tone, figure out if the guitar or indeed the amp or even the pedal is giving them what they want, because it evokes a certain tone and makes you want to play in a certain way, and it is position 4 on a Strat, then maybe that needs to come off the list because it's equally obnoxious just because he's done that with it.
I don't think it's an obnoxious riff. I think guitar players have made it.
That's right.
Obnoxious.
Yeah, he didn't make it obnoxious.
I think there's too many people who model themselves on Mayer playing that song at parties to try and get attention of the ladies. Right?
Oh, right.
I think that part of it is that there's something about that song which is kind of
sleazy.
Sleazy. Exactly.
But John Mayer's sleazy. Yeah,
of course he is, especially around that time. Yeah. I mean, Continuum may be the best album of post-millennia for that style of music, but there was something late 2000s, I think, when his ego was at the highest. There was something sleazy.
Which is saying something, because the bass line of it was pretty high already.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, brilliant. That's a good choice, though. Slow Dancing in a Burning Room.
I'm not hating on John Mayer. I'm not hating on him. I love him. I listen to his stuff all the time, and his tone and everything. He's just one of my most inspirational influences ever. I love him. I think he's incredible. But
I agree entirely. One of my favourites too.
There you go.
Cool. Right, my next one. This is another personal one. I don't think anyone's going to know this one, but I hope people go away and listen to it and realise, a little bit of, interesting music from someone who you probably know.
Right.
And this is a guy called Donald Bramall II.
Yes.
So, he's been playing alongside Clapton for many years now as a second guitarist. He's a very prolific songwriter himself. He's produced people like Sheryl Crow recently. He's a very, very interesting guitarist. Interesting in where he plays as well, like Albert King did, and like people like Eric Gales do. He plays left-handed, but he hasn't restrung the guitar for a left-handed, so the strings are the wrong way around. Interestingly, he's not left-handed.
No.
He's right-handed.
Huh.
He is a right-handed person. And I realised this in an interview.
I didn't know
But to him, he said it always felt natural because he's right-handed.
Right.
To him, it feels natural to have his strong hand on the fretboard,
Okay.
not the picking hand.
Right.
So he just flipped the guitar up and learned the other way
Interesting.
around. But he's not left-handed.
I thought he was left-handed. There you go.
So did I. But it's very not interesting.
Confusing. Yeah.
Unless it's from also watching right-handed guitarists on TV and mirroring them.
Yeah.
Almost makes it feel, anyway. But Doyle Bramhall, the first time I ever saw him was me and my dad went to see Clapton in Manchester in 2001. And Doyle Bramhall was supporting Clapton on the tour. That's when Clapton first discovered him.
Right.
And it was Doyle Bramhall II and Smokestack, which was his band, which was a couple of guys in the band, but the drummer was, I can't remember his name now, JJ Johnson. He went on to be John Mayer's drummer.
Oh, yeah.
So JJ Johnson was the drummer. So it was really great to see those guys. But that night I bought Bramhall's album in the merch stand called Smokestack. It was his second album. And the first track is a song called Green Light Girl, which is just a killer blues rock track, really fast. And it opens up with this fantastic riff. So that for me is one of my favourite post-millennium. It's 2001, so just sneaking into the time frame that we're looking at. But Green Light Girl by Doyle Bramhall II and Smokestack from the album Smokestack. That album's just fantastic guitar album, by the way, as you'd expect from a guitarist like him.
Oh, that's my weekend sorted, man. Yeah, he's just such a tasteful player. And, he's toured and he's been Clapton's right-hand man as well for a number of gigs. And he's got a vibe for sure. And, amazing.
Clapton's right-hand, left-hand playing but right-handed guitarist, man. For many, but that puts me 2, 3, 4. That's halfway for me. That's my first 5 riffs, and that's a good list. Some good listening there for some people there. But anyway, before we turn this into a tour de force of extreme length, let's blast on through the next 5.
Let's blast. Right, here we go. Is it me next? It is, isn't it?
It's you next,
right, mate. So I've got another one which taps into the motivational kind of energy thing that you've spoken about. You've mentioned like gym tracks or kind of like driving tracks. So this one definitely fits squarely in that for me. And that is Queens of the Stone Age, No One Knows, which is just this side of the millennium. And Josh Homme, just amazing. It's a vibe, that the whole song, and that riff is just awesome.
Well, that's a first because that was next on my list as well. It was not just was it on my list, it was also next on my list.
Amazing. There you go.
How cool
this is it, man. We're thinking alike. Yeah, what a track.
It is a great track. Very motivational, like you say. And the drumming in it. As good and simple as the riff is in the guitar sound, the drumming. Dave Grohl's drumming in that is just...
I know. It's legendary.
So
all the
good.
way around the kit. It's amazing. Every time.
Awesome choice, man. Right, so sorry, what was it called? No One
Knows, yeah. Amazing. Played on an Ovation Ultra. Ovation's rare foray into solid body guitars in the 80s. In the 80s. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, there you go. You remember Ovation in the 80s with the big kind of round kind of plastic
the round back guitars,
yeah.
Harley Benton still make a lot of round back guitars. Did you know that?
There you go. I didn't know that. There you go.
Just to show you what I've been looking at to spend my birthday money on. But anyway.
You've been on Tom Ad recently, yeah.
Right, next one for me. Yeah. And I think this is an obvious one, but I love this song so much. I love this band. And the song is I Believe in a Thing Called Love by The Darkness.
It's number 10 on my list too.
Is it really?
I've just disappeared down a deep, deep darkness hole in the last 24 hours.
What you do in your own time? Yes. Okay.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that, listeners.
They are great. One of my favourite tracks of theirs is quite a recent track called Last of Our Kind, by the way, which is not really a riff at all, but it's a great song. It's got a good guitar solo. Yeah. You should check out that one from one of their more recent albums of recent years. But yes, going back to the list, so modern classic guitar, I Believe in a Thing Called Love. Everyone knows it. You're all listening to this podcast now, and that riff is appearing in your head. You don't need to go, I don't know that one. You know it. Oh,
for sure you know it, man. And what a great choice. This one almost escaped my list. list, right? I was up to my 9, and then I was just going through Spotify, going through stuff, and I went, oh my God, hold on a minute, I've missed this. And then I went back to that album, Permission to Land, with the Darkness, like seminal album, multi-platinum album, and then remembered all the tracks on it. Black Shuck is another track which has got the most rudest riff in it that you can imagine. It's like AC/DC on steroids. Oh, mate, sorry. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. Doesn't matter.
I couldn't decide between the two of them, and I literally went for that.
Yeah.
But then I kept going with the Darkness, man. That track, Love Is Only a Feeling, is not from a necessarily a riff perspective, but just from a composition and arrangement perspective, and all the dynamics that song goes through is just wizardry.
It's absolutely superb.
Superb. And then, if that wasn't enough, they're probably the only band in recent times, recent inverted commas, that I think has genuinely made a brilliant and sustained entrance into the Christmas anthems songs.
For sure.
No one does that anymore.
Absolutely.
Who's done
Nobody
that?
does it anymore. Some people try to do it with really contrived music that, sticks around maybe on some compilation albums.
Yeah.
That you just kind of listen to a Christmas and go, well, that's terrible. That's not going to be ever a Christmas classic, but I guess you're going to hear it occasionally. Like something by, was it Destiny's Child did a Christmas song?
Oh, did they?
It was just terrible. Yeah.
No.
But still, that Christmas song they did.
It's brilliant.
Don't Let the Bells End. I mean,
it's got the video right. It's got the hook right. It has got the bells in it. It has become an ongoing. I mean,
yeah, one of the best Christmas songs ever.
Maybe that's a future episode. Christmas songs for guitarists. Oh, that's an episode we need to do in a few months.
That is an episode we need to do. That's it. His time is coming.
Remember that. Well. There's another Spotify playlist, right? We'll hold back on the Christmas segue, because one, it's too early, but that's a whole episode. But yes, mate. I believe in a thing called love, and the Darkness in general, particularly that Permission to Land album.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So next is you. You're next, mate.
Right. Okay. I've got 3 left. All right.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do 2 quickly for the sake of time, and then I'm gonna go to you, and then because I'm gonna hold my last one because it's a complete wild card.
Okay.
Right.
No problem.
So my next one is, because I always like to include a bluesy one, and because I bash this guy a lot, right? And actually he does write some great riffs.
So which Joe Bonamassa song is it?
It's the Ballad of John Henry by Mr. John Bonamassa, who is not even arguably, who is one of the world's greatest guitarists now and forever. But he keeps buying all the expensive Les Pauls, and that makes him irritating in my world. Not only Les Pauls, he keeps buying everything. And it's only because I'm jealous that I can't buy everything like he can. The fact that I'm not even 1/57th the player that he is, that I like to pick on him for no good reason, which is not cool, kids. I
know.
But he is an incredible player with incredible tone and knowledge and facility around the guitar, and he can write a bloody great riff. And the Ballad of John Henry is one such fine example of his craftsmanship. So all credit to you, Mr. Bonamassa.
I think he's matured into a really, really excellent artist. Fantastic. What's the word? Ambassador for blues music as well. Him and Josh Smith are starting to produce a lot of great albums as well for other artists that are getting a hell of a career push because of his kind of say. So, he's almost turning into a modern day B.B. King, somebody who's becoming a champion for people who a lot of people are really looking up to him. And I really like that about Joe Bonamassa, because he's had that through his career, and he's not, if you'd kind of watch any of his interviews or documentaries that he's done recently about his career, he's had a tough time for a long time, really struggling. A lot of his career, he's not done well, both financially and kind of critically.
Right.
It's only in recent years when he took things like the Royal Albert Hall. You remember the Royal Albert Hall gig he did in like late 2000s where he had Clapton and stuff. That was basically a last punt of the of the ball. He said in an interview once, said that was the rest of the money they had in the business and everything that they could borrow to put that show on.
No way.
And and he said, and they said if it didn't kick off his career doing that Albert Hall gig, that was it. Basically, it was kind of bankrupt them. But it kicked everything off. Clapton, he basically got the seal of approval from Clapton because Clapton came and did the show.
Oh, I remember. It's a great.
Americans thought he was British because it was like, oh, who's this Joe Bonamassa guy from the UK gigging in the Albert Hall?
Right.
So it was kind of like he had his own version of the British blues invasion in the US because, so that it's been a real kind of rise. His career is actually a really interesting story. So I don't necessarily, I know he buys all the expensive guitars, but at least he gigs them.
He does.
Know what I mean?
He does.
He buys these things that people would mothball and put in bank vaults and he takes them on tour and plays them.
He does.
And he plays them properly. Yeah. He beats the life out of them.
Oh, he does. And his knowledge on the guitar is phenomenal. Just in terms of his playing, which is obviously incredible, but about tone and about like guitar, like just curation and manufacture, and he just knows everything, man. He's just like encyclopedic. But I hadn't appreciated that at all about his career and the ups and downs of it. And God, newfound respect. So there you go. Bonamassa has made it to the list. The other one that I'm going to do briefly is I didn't actually know who the band were behind this riff, and I kept hearing it everywhere. I kept hearing it on social media platforms. I kept hearing it on adverts. I kept hearing it in supermarkets, and I kept hearing this riff and going, well, who is this? It is like a gnarly, dirty, sleazy, bluesy riff that has now somehow managed to earworm itself into all manner of popular culture, from lifts to like football stadiums. And I was just like, what is this? And so obviously Shazam helped me out and told me that it was obviously an incredibly famous band and that I was living in a rock cave somewhere. And it's the Arctic Monkeys. And the track is called Do I Wanna Know? Right. Arctic Monkeys, people know, right? They're, You Look Good on the Dance Floor, all of that. Great British band, great driving anthems, great drummer. In fact, I think their drummer went and did some stuff with Queens of the Stone Age. Have I remembered that right? Or have I remembered that wrong? Anyway, that's an aside. This to me sums up that great riff writing is still alive and well in this day and age. If you don't know this track, Matt, go and listen to it, and it is awesome. It's a great riff.
I'll check it out for sure.
Yeah, man. Do I Want to Know by the Arctic Monkeys?
Do I Want to Know?
You've probably even heard it. You'll play it. You'll play the track and you'll go, that's who this is.
I did in a lift somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So it deserves to be played in more than a lift, but yeah.
I will definitely check them out. They've got a lot of good riffs, Arctic Monkeys, to be fair. They are a great band, and I was chatting about this to my wife earlier on when I was asking her for some ideas as well for this, and she mentioned Arctic Monkeys. I don't know if it was this one she mentioned, but yeah, they've just got the great riff writing. Again, like you say, great riff writing is absolutely alive and well still. Yeah. This day and age, it's not all
Led Zeppelin.
It's not all Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin stroke Greta Von Fleet, same band. I don't care what people say, they're the same band. But anyway.
Cool, man. I've just got one more left, but you got a couple.
I've got a few. I'm going to quickly go through the last few that I've got on my list, and then I want to just point out a couple of honourable mentions, which I'll stick on the playlist as well, just for fun.
Yeah, great.
But the next one was going to be Black Shuck. From The Darkness, from Permission to Land. So I Believe in a Thing Called Love and Black Shuck from the same album. But again, exactly like you said, that album, Permission to Land, from 2003, is just, from top to bottom, is fantastic guitar riffs. Yes. It is a superb, as well as being a hilarious album, because The Darkness are and were and still are a hilarious band. They got it. Well, I say they've got a sense of humour. They're not a parody of something, but they've got a sense of humour that they like to use. And just such a great album. But Black Shuck. But the next one is probably my bluesy one as well. And back in kind of the late 2000s, the Derek Trucks band disbanded and they fought, and then he went on a couple of years later to perform, the Tedeschi Trucks Band, and their first album, Revelator's got a song on it called Learn How to Love You, which is a super bluesy riff. It's in drop D. I think his guitar is completely dropped down a tone, so it's not just drop D, the whole guitar's dropped down to open D.
Open D, yeah.
And he's playing this super bluesy riff, and it's Learn How to Love You. It's fantastic. Really great. And then my last one is, and this is a band that I've always loved, Stereophonics.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And
great band.
And actually, there's two. One of them was one of the ones I wanted to put on this list. Suggestion from my dad, actually, called Dakota. It's a great song, and it is a good riff, but it's almost too simple a riff. But the one that I've chosen is an album track that I don't think they ever released as a single from the album Jeep, which is Just Enough Education to Perform from 2001. It's the opening track. It's a song called Vegas 2 Times.
Oh yeah, I know that track.
Rocking, really rocking riff, really good. You know, and other than some other honourable mentions, that's pretty much my list of stuff. So a lot of personal stuff there, not necessarily obvious things, but yeah. What about you? What are your last few or last one?
Well, there is one that I kept coming back to that didn't make it onto the final list, but I had the pleasure of watching this artist open up for Guns N' Roses this year, and I've listened to them for a number of years now and loved their songwriting and guitar playing style and their vocal approach to kind of the blues, and gone, this is a great artist. But when this song came on in that big stadium with his band, and the most stunning charcoal flame top ES335 by Gibson. It was just the most stunning 335 that I've ever seen, and it's like translucent black charcoal with this incredible flame on it. And this riff came on at that decibel level. Every fiber in my body could just, when you can just feel it in the pit of your stomach. And okay, I'd had a few beers and I was rather excited, but literally I remember at that moment just all the hair standing up on everywhere, and just thinking, this is a guttural riff. But the reason it didn't make the list, having said all of that, is because it's almost too simple, and it's almost not even a riff. It's like the space around what he plays, and it's just the groove. So it's Gary Clark Jr., and it's a song called Bright Lights. And and I didn't make it because I kind of couldn't really keep it in my head like the riff itself, because it's almost not a riff. It's like it's a vibe, and it's a groove. The riff almost gets lost in the whole groove of the song, but it's just so again that
trance-like.
It's almost trance-like. That's it. Yeah, that's it, Matt. Exactly that.
I know exactly the song, because I think the first time I heard it is when Gary Clark Jr. when he first did the Crossroads Guitar Festival.
Yes, he played that one at Crossroads,
and he was playing with Doyle Bramwell, actually. I mentioned earlier on, and that was one of the big songs. That was the song I think that got onto the Crossroads album of tracks that were played on the thing, and that's he's a great artist, fantastic modern day blues guitarist, blues rock. You can't really pigeonhole him. He's just a fantastic artist.
He really is. And you know what? As much as I loved watching Guns N' Roses, and they were phenomenal. When I went and watched them, it was all my childhood fantasies, come to life. He was probably my standout artist that I've seen live in 2022 thus far. His playing, his tone, just was phenomenal that day. Absolutely phenomenal. So that was my honourable mention that didn't quite make it onto the list, but we've mentioned it, so it'll be in the playlist. My last one goes back to something that you said, Matt, earlier in this conversation, which made me go, we're thinking in the same line. So do you remember you mentioned like this kind of motivational, put it on to go to the gym, kind of get your head in gear kind of thing, right? So my final riff, it squarely sits in that category. In fact, so much so that when I'm about to go and like deliver a presentation or a like piece of work in my work setting to quite a number of people, like there are instances in my work where I've had to stand up in front of a good few hundred people at a time and present to them for a length of time. Like I don't mind speaking in public, but it's always a kind of moment to focus and concentrate, right, and get your head in gear. I put this song on in my headphones and I listen to it just a few minutes before I go on, one. So that's something I've done for a long time.
I thought you were going to say it was your walkout music or something like that.
I've had it
going on stage like,
and to build on that, then when I got to the point where I was able to then pick out my own walkout music to walk up on stage to, this one, whenever they ask me, would you like some walkout music? What walkout music do you want? Most of the time, because they know I'm a guitar player, they choose Layla. But if they ask me what I would like as my walkout music, I choose this one. And they always go, really? And then they go, oh yeah, great riff. Right? So even the sound engineers kind of go, yeah, that's a great one. Now, this shouldn't be a motivational song because of the context of the song and the reason behind it, because the whole context of this song is literally about somebody who's just so anxious and nervous that they're about to throw up. So it's kind of like the worst song to kind of put yourself in that right mindset, because it's literally, the whole song is about don't screw this up because too much is riding on it. But that's not how I interpret it, because the riff just gets me like pumped up, right? So that shows you how powerful this riff is. And the other reason it made my list, and it's my wild card, is because it's not a rock song or one that you'd normally associate with any guitarist's riff list.
Okay.
But, right, so how about that for a build-up? I may have over-egged this one a little bit, Matthew, but...
I don't know, I'm excited.
It's a great riff. It's a great riff. It's a great riff. So it is Lose Yourself by Eminem. And the riff within that.
Yes.
It's just a whole mood in itself. Do you know what I mean? It's like probably the greatest riff on my modern riffs list is not like...
It's a loop of it, isn't it? It's like a loop they've used a sample. But it is a great riff, man. That is great. I mean, I can kind of feel it now. And you've progressed from listening to this by yourself in the bathroom, probably like pumping up like Eminem did before his rap battle, to walking onto it. And the next is going to be, you're going to be rapping it. You're going to be getting up on that stage.
No one needs that.
And you're going to be rapping it, and then mic drop, and then do your talk about business numbers and stuff like that.
Can you imagine? I think that might be a step too far. That would just get people to throw fruit at me or something. But I mean, it's pretty audacious to even walk up to that music. But everyone loves it.
It's fantastic.
I mean, it was played by a guy called Jeff Bass, who's the guitarist who's worked with Eminem.
Jeff Bass was the guitarist, and Robert guitarist.
Was on bass.
Right.
Bob Cello on drums. And Tom Flute on keyboards. But this guy used to be signed to Quincy Jones's record label and stuff. So he's been in the game a long time. But and that song won an Oscar for best original best original song in 2003. It actually won an Oscar, and arguably I would say it won an Oscar for its riff.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. I think that's definitely the thing that builds the tension. That little, it's the fifth. It's the tension between the root and the fifth and the root and the flat sixth. In between. So there you go.
You've gone all Rick Beato on me, which I love and also kind of get very intimidated by. But there you go. That's a whole different conversation.
That is, like that. Oh dear. Well, I'm done with my list as well. I've got. Do you know what I found? I just want to quickly talk about the thing that I found difficult is when I think of a lot of my favourite riffs from more modern times. Yeah. Most of my favourite ones fall between about 1994 and 99. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that I really love that isn't getting a mention. Yeah. Things from also particularly because I come from the northwest of England. There's a lot of bands from that area that I really love, like The Verve and Oasis and the Storm Roses, that just have superb riffs in their music.
That's
a lot of Oasis early stuff like Supersonic. Some might say things like that. Yeah. Great riffs, great songs that don't get on this list.
Good shout.
But for me, the best riff of that time, the one that I love the most, is you remember the Storm Roses, obviously from early 1990s, probably the original kind of 90s indie band. Yeah. Their guitarist John Squire was a fantastic guitarist. Still is. He just doesn't really play very much anymore. But he left the Storm Roses and formed a band called the Seahorses. Yeah. And they had a hit with a song called "Love Is the Law," which is just that is just such an incredible guitar riff. Yeah, absolutely monstrous guitar riff. And he's a modern day Jimmy Page, that guy, for sure. Very innovative guitarist. Doesn't get spoken about enough at all. But that was one I wanted to mention because it didn't fall in the time frame, but I just thought it has to be mentioned. Love Is the Law by the Seahorses. I will put it on the playlist, as I will, put your honourable mention on there as well.
Yeah,
stuff.
do man.
Yeah.
It's a cracking playlist. There are some new ones.
It's a great playlist.
But quite a few places where we actually found like overlap this time, which says something, I think. I don't know what, but it says something.
It does. Well, we're of the same generation, maybe in our 40s.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. We're a self-selecting audience, a self-selecting judging panel on this, really, aren't we? Because we're kind of from the same mould. It'd be interesting to see what a 25-year-old would say were the greatest riffs post-millennium.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably very different.
They'll probably go, what's a riff? Boomer music or something.
So stop asking me questions. You're triggering me. Ask your question. It's not a test.
Yeah,
and then you may use the incorrect pronoun when referring to them and then just end up in litigation. It's a minefield.
Well,
it's a minefield.
It is a minefield, isn't it? Yeah. In fact, I'm probably going to cut that out.
Don't cut it out. Don't cut it out. I think it takes it up to the line. I didn't say anything that bad.
No, exactly. It's okay. All right, mate. That was a cracking chat. Really enjoyed that. Thank you for your company for this last hour and a half. It's been fantastic.
Pleasure, my friend. The pleasure was all mine. And happy birthday to you for I hope will be one of your finest years. But
I'm sure it will. I'm feeling good about it.
For sure you should.
Yeah, brilliant. Awesome, dude. Well, all the best to you, mate. Have a cracking weekend. I will speak to you next week as well. And all
cheers,
the best,
pal.
mate. Speak to you soon.
Bye.
Take care, bud. Thanks so much for listening. Great conversation again. If you like what you hear, then remember there are 63 other episodes going back almost 2 years that you can check out. Go and enjoy them. Anyway, best wishes. See you next time on the Guitar Smarts Podcast.